All right, so start of the new week. It's been a week since I did a video, but we pretty much consolidated. So like the last time I was talking about everything, we're still looking at our moving averages to kind of see where we're at. It would have got us out all the way back here back in May, and yeah, we've would have had some price movement, but we pretty much would have consolidated, would have exited us a little bit above where we're at. Um, so what do I think is going to happen, right? Are we really about to break down and go even lower, or are we going to continue to consolidate? So fundamentally, like I said last week, there was a lot of fundamentals that are bullish. As far as I don't do really fundamental analysis, but just looking at different articles and a couple of different traders that actually do fundamental analysis, like Willy Woo is one of them. They're showing that there's a lot of accumulation in larger wallets. So like whales, they're buying this up. We can look at the GBTC premium as well to see if that's starting to close. The gap was closing a little bit, and that would kind of indirectly uh, pretty much say that there was more institutional buyers coming in. And there has been some posts of ARK investments they bought, and I think I saw maybe one or two other articles where there's some hedge funds that had purchased in GBTC in these past couple of weeks. But we've consolidated for a while. Has this consolidation been as long as this run up? How long was this run up? So this was, say, 11 weeks until we actually fell. So, and this was, we'll count this one. This one's been 8 weeks. So, like I said on the last video, and I've been saying probably the last couple of videos, I think we'll get an answer. So it was, I would think if we were going to rally back up to, this upper level, that was going to take, I said August, September. And we could possibly, so all these moving averages are starting to level out because price is consolidating. We could get some price action. I think we're going to get a resolve to directionality in Bitcoin. Either we're going to break down further, or we're going to break out, and we will, well, not break out, we will start to trend. We'll start to trend, you know, in one direction. We'll either start going up or we'll start going down. That kind of sounds like a silly statement, yeah, because it's either going to go up or down. But I think we're going to get, it's going to be it's going to be directional. We'll get directionality. Where is this market going to go, and we'll get it before the end of July. Our stock to flow model, it's definitely the lowest it's ever been as far as below the model. I think there's like stock to flow ratio. It might not be here. Let's see. It's not on this. Nope. Let's see if I can just find that. Maybe here. Let's look at these other charts real quick. I'm looking into Bitcoin. I should have found that earlier. But I know that there's a ratio, the stock to flow ratio. It's been the lowest it's ever been now, so that can indicate a good time to buy. We are below the model. It hasn't really stayed below the model more than a week, and it's been 2 weeks that we've been not below the model, but below the lower end of the model. So the lower end of the model right now is basically half of what this is. So 82, 283. You would divide that by 2. That's around 42,000, and we've been below the model for like 2 or 3 weeks. Previously, the longest it had been pretty much half of the model around had been like a week and a half, 2 weeks. So we're going on like 2 or 3 weeks. This is definitely unprecedented. Definitely fueled, but by what I've been calling, and I haven't seen anybody else say it, but like the forced miner capitulation in the banning of mining in China. So let's look at those values for the last 60 days. It's starting to trend up here. So we saw the bounce raw values. It's consolidating essentially, just like prices. So I think if we get a breakout here above 100 tera, it says Equihash, but if we get a break above 100, I think we'll get a breakout in price as well. Price was following hash. That's not always the case, but right now it kind of is. We can look at our Mayer multiple bands still there. So it hasn't hit this lower bound. We don't have to, but yeah, this is saying to become bullish if you're going by this indicator. If we were to break, say, 50,000, but it's okay. Yeah, and then this here, we're below the NVT, which is kind of an indicator used to determine kind of how I would say how cheap Bitcoin is at the moment. NVT is starting to trend down. We're below it, which means that the Bitcoin relative to the value that's being transferred on the network, because that's what NVT represents. Bitcoin's very much underpriced. Our top cap still 157. Still, this is still going to keep on trending up. Right now it's 157,000. So where we're going to go, we're looking at, consolidate. Well, I'll bring up the CMF because we see a bounce here. And if we can break out above this area right here, this 0.07, us closing. I mean, it's the start of the new week, and we're seeing we got momentum, which means that buyers. I mean, this is indicating that buyers are coming in. But closing, last week, just a couple hours ago, negative on the CMF. Seen that before here, where it kind of, but price was moving a little bit more aggressively. It had already pulled back. It had been, weeks. This was already 4 months past the high, and then we saw consolidation where it was an extremely long time. So basically from like June 2018 all the way to the end of the year, Bitcoin basically consolidated. Yeah, we had these 2 weeks of, what was it, almost 30% run up, but then, I mean, we essentially consolidated around like 6,000 because then it dropped back below in August and then it broke down in November. But this was minor capitulation here. Once this broke down, then we had true minor capitulation relative to the Bitcoin cycle. Here, this was forced. So we're getting forced minor capitulation in the middle of the bull cycle. So this is like I said, this is definitely special. Everything. The run up was special. This pause and, and Bitcoin price run up, and we actually have a fall. This is all good data to have and to definitely review, because in the future cycles we have data that basically Bitcoin followed for 10 years, and now we have an outlier, and then so we can have previous 10-year data. We have this special case. Maybe this shows up not the next cycle, but the next one. This is really good for understanding price action and how Bitcoin will evolve as an asset. So, but right now, I mean, we're starting off, I'm going to say good. We're still consolidating. On the daily, I noticed that we can't break this 30 MA. So we get to it and we fail. We get to it and we fail. So I'm going to say our next target to kind of watch and take out is going to be this 30-day moving average. So right now it's right around 34.9, say 35,000. So if we get a day where we can close above 35,000, that would be initially the area that we're looking for to kind of look for more bullish movement. So relative to where we're at, that's a price movement of really just 2%. But it seems crazy that, oh yeah, Bitcoin just needs to, that's nothing, 2% for, yeah, but here we had a 4% move. This day was a 1.75 essentially percent move, but it wasn't enough to get us past this 30-day moving average. 4 hour, I mean, we're just getting lower highs, which isn't good. Again, this is 35,000. Closing above this would be great because we would get a 9. We can get a green number above a prior green number above the 9. This didn't quite get there. This didn't get there. You can see here, actually, I remember looking at this. I didn't do a video that day, but I remember looking at it where we had this too. This failed. And then you can see here on our CMF, we had price kind of, I would say it was consolidating, but our CMF was aggressively moving down which meant that there was more sellers than buyers. And then we had our funding rate go positive, and that's we traditionally you trade that as it's a counter you counter trade this. So if it went positive, you would go short. And then we had the CMF saying that you should be bearish. There was the 9 was acting as resistance here. We didn't get the green 2, the green 3, close it above the green 1, above the 9. We saw a sell off. We saw the market go net positive, and then a couple hours later, price fell. So all that there, I remember watching this and saying, this is not bullish. We just got right here. It was around lunchtime on that day, whatever the 7th was. I remember looking at it, or like midday, and that was Wednesday, and I'm like, this is not. This is, and it almost, because the market itself had a bad day on Thursday and it recovered on Friday, and this kind of like, it was like a precursor of what I guess was to come in the traditional markets. But the bond rates actually went up, and that's actually bullish for gold. That could be indirectly also bullish for Bitcoin. So we're looking here. It did go a little positive. Our CMF dropped off on the hourly. It's kind of net neutral, or kind of slightly bullish. But our daily still bear. The market's still net bearish and weekly bearish. So on the longer trend, yeah, we got a CMF bounce. If we can break this, that'd be nice. Our moving averages are starting to flatten out, showing that this is definitely, obviously, a level of support. We haven't even closed below it yet. We've wicked below it even far down here, but the market itself is holding Bitcoin pretty much above 34,000. Yeah, we get wicks below it, but on the weekly, it's coming back up. Let's see on the daily. I think we have had some closes below it. We have, but on the weekly time frame, it's closing above it. Let's look at. I talked about our GBTC funding rate. I didn't mean to. I meant to exit out of the CMF. So the premium, GBTC premium. I'm not going to go for the last 2 days. Let's just look at the weekly. It's flattening out. It's like negative 16. It's pretty much staying the same. So we want to see this starting to close and go back up to close the gap. Yeah, there was days. Let's see where we were on the 7th. Negative 12. Here was negative 10. So it started to close, but it's still kind of, I would say, staying between more so like 15 and 10, negative 10. So we got to really maybe break to like 5 or 8. And then I think that would coincide with more bullish action where, yeah, some institutions can't directly buy Bitcoin, but they can buy GBTC. And if that's going to change the sentiment on that side, and we should see, I think we'll see the CMF start to close up higher, and then we'll see this start to. I think price will move a good 10 to 20% before this starts to close, because these buyers probably need a little bit more confidence that price is going to start to rally. So we'd obviously see right here, it's somewhere around 0.2 where we would really need CMF to start to rally back up. And on the weekly, break out above this little level right here, this 0.7 area. I'll look at the unbalanced volume. I want to look at this. I want to look at the Ichimoku clouds too, real quick. Yeah, so we broke below that as areas. I mean, we could trend sideways until September, and then start to go up. These haven't crossed yet, like they did here. Let me hide this real quick. So that marked the bottom right here, this cross. And the cycle before, whenever you saw the cross on the CMF, that also marked the bottom. I can show you on this index here. And that's actually, I used that in 2018 to call the bottom within like a week. Because I saw historically, right there, boom. So where the cross was, within plus or minus 1 to 2 weeks, I actually said plus or minus 2 weeks, that would be the bottom. And this right here was a week after, and it was the bottom. And then in 2018, it was the same thing. Right there. Here's the cross where it's going. The Ichimoku is saying this is now bearish area, but it marked the bottom right there a week before the cross, about 2 weeks before the cross. This takes a while to play out, and where we're at right now, it would extend this out all the way till September, and then we would have another large months, potentially 4 to 8 months of consolidation, and then we would reach a low. So that September, or would that be? So like January to like April or May of next summer, that would indicate like a market bottom, if this is indeed shaping out to be the a continue. Our indicators would say, yeah, we entered the bear market here back in May, end of May. That's what our moving averages would have told us. That would have been the mark, and then we would have topped. We would have reached the bottom for that start a whole year later, and then we would possibly recover a whole year later. 2023, that would be anticipation of maybe the next halving. That's all just thinking out loud. But right now, we're still looking at it. We'll get confirmation of this, I think, of this turning out to truly be the bear before the true minor capitulation. I mean, it'll be wild. If this really starts to be the bear, like this marked the start of the bear, and we're going, I think there'll be, we initially break down, there'll be volatility probably back to this area, maybe 30,000. There could be some, price rally, and then we reach I would think that the next minor capitulation would be even a lower low than whatever the potential next 4 to 6 weeks would hold, and bearish price action. We would get a rally, and then maybe to this lower bound, like 35. If we really went as low as like 25, price could potentially bounce to 35, and then we would go lower than 20, maybe hit the previous all-time high of 20,000. That'd be a minor capitulation support level, and then from there we would rally to 100,000 plus, 300,000 plus, but that wouldn't be until after the next halving, which would be all the way, 4 years from now. So kind of an insight of maybe how I look at the way price develops through time. But right now, we're just consolidating. We have some bullish, it's really like neutral until our moving averages start to break out a little bit higher, until our CMF starts to break out a little bit higher, until our funny rates, our GBTC premium starts to get smaller, less than, I say, 10. Let's look at our unbalanced volume. Unbalanced volume still kind of consolidating. This is kind of support level. That's actually, maybe on the daily it's just breaking down with price, but on the weekly it's pretty much held for the most part. We broke out here. Price was 32,000. We're above that, so it's consolidating on the weekly. Let's look at the 4-hour. Consolidating, hourly, kind of consolidating. Let's look at the Ichimoku cloud on the 4-hour. Yeah, look, see, I've had said this before, where price rallies into the cross. I think here I was saying we'd rally back into 36,000, didn't quite find it, found resistance here, and we went below this, hit a 9, went above it, kind of moseyed on. Now we're back in the cross. Price went into the cross. If we can close this, if you're trading the Ichimoku cloud, if we can close above 34.5, 34.6, that'd be bullish. Maybe that brings us up to the 35 area. Yeah, on the daily. Oh, I was saying that on the daily. We would go to like 46 potentially, but we broke down. Yeah, so if you're trading Ichimoku cloud on the daily, it's saying no trade because the cloud is red. So we'll see how that goes. Did they give us a support area? This right here is acting as support. Resistance at 40. This is big price movement. We can look at the Guppy. It's a collection of moving averages. They're starting to condense down. Weekly, compared to the past cycle, I mean, compared to the past cycle, you would say that this is a top, especially with that pi cycle indicator top. It said this was the top. Um, we're just moseying on down. Uh, we wouldn't be in, I would say, true consolidation until these moving averages, the green ones, start to go below the red ones. And then we would get a separation between that. That could also indicate minor capitulation, and then the cross above it would be start of the new uh, potentially bull. This was scam coin though. This was one token eating up, purchasing Bitcoin. You have to go look at the history if you don't know what I'm talking about. But uh, even so, this is COVID right here, and then they went positive. You could have said that's start of the bull. Really, I would say the start of the bull was here, even though it was before the halving. And then we had this weakness here in because of COVID. But if we would have broke out these weeks above 10,000, if we would have had a weekly close above 10,000, we would have taken off. If COVID would have never happened, this price would look totally different. Maybe this would have hit 60,000, much earlier, like in August of 2020 or something. But we didn't. But as soon as we got to close above 10,000 on the weekly, we took off to the races pretty much. I mean, we had this down week of 10%, but that just found support at the 9, retested the area, and then we took off. But right now, these moving averages are starting to condense. These can start to separate, and then once we get a larger separation, like we did here with potentially the pi cycle indicator, saying that that's a top, and maybe some other indicators, then we could sell the top. There wasn't any other trades during the week, which is why I took a week to not really post anything. I mean, like I said, I talked about bonds earlier, so gold was kind of developing in price. It looked okay. It did rally. Our moving averages are going up. If we can get some nice, this is the start of the new week, so this week you could have eased in maybe like a 10% or 15% allocation if you wanted to re-enter gold. But you really need this to start moving up. We get a close above 18.8, say we get 18.20 on gold. You could maybe potentially allocate 50% of that position. And then once we really get above this 9, depending on the way interest rates, our yields are developing, we could then re-enter 100% and then go potentially to new all-time highs. But definitely test new all-time highs. That's about it. The stock market, we did hit a 9 on I'll show the S&P real quick. We hit a 9. We retested it here, did we? 42, not quite. That was on the weekly, but on the daily we did. So daily we hit a 9. We had that down day, and then we consolidated. Now we're going higher. So we'll see how that develops. I haven't looked at pre-market, but you could have went bullish here, green 3 above green 2 above the 9, and then it would have returned you almost 2% in 2 weeks. So, but this is kind of a reversal. Kind of, if that would have closed red, that would have definitely been an indication of reversal. But we'll see where it goes, because you can look at the RSI, and the RSI is just now breaking into overbought territory. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need to sell. That just could mean that if this can sustain price, if we can sustain price action, this could just indicate that we're getting good momentum up to new all-time highs in the market. And if we break this upper end of 79, we can really get a run up like they did here in 2018 for a couple of weeks. I would say more than a couple of weeks, for another 6 weeks to 12 weeks, and new all-time highs for the market, and then we reevaluate. So overall in the market, I'm a little bit leaning more bullish for sure. There were some stocks that fell on Thursday, but they quickly recovered on Friday. So, but we're still watching. So I think that's it. That's all I have. Thanks for watching.